The morning mist lay thick across the dense ancient forest, cloaking the world in a ghostly silence. Towering conifers swayed gently as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the canopy, scattering golden beams upon the damp earth. Beneath that emerald roof, something stirred, a deep rumble, like thunder caged within the soil. The forest floor trembled, and birds erupted from the treetops in a violent flutter. From the heart of the jungle, a colossal form emerged, the Acrocanthosaurus. Its ridged spine rose like the jagged peaks of a mountain range, each bony ridge glistening with dew. The creature paused, nostrils flaring, tasting the air thick with the scent of life and blood. For weeks it had slumbered in a hollow ravine, hidden by moss and vines. Now hunger clawed at its belly. The beast's eyes, amber and cold, scanned the horizon. It moved with a heavy grace, each step pressing deep prints into the mud. Muscles rippled under its scaled hide, and as it moved, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Smaller creatures darted into burrows and streams, knowing that silence was survival. A faint sound drifted through the trees, the distant lowing of a herd. The Acrocanthosaurus tilted its head, listening. A group of Tenontosaurus, grazing unaware, no more than a half-mile away. Its powerful tail swayed behind it like a living whip as it began to stalk forward, each step calculated, each breath measured. The hunt had begun. As it advanced, the undergrowth bent beneath its weight, branches snapping softly under its massive frame. The wind carried the scent of its prey, warm flesh, ripe for the kill. The Acrocanthosaurus's lips curled back to reveal rows of serrated teeth, curved like knives forged by nature itself. A flock of early pterosaurs swept overhead, circling the clearing ahead. The herd was close now. Thick-bodied herbivores with tails like whips and eyes wide with simple innocence. The predator froze, lowering itself behind a ridge of ferns. Its heart beat slow and steady, trained by countless hunts. Then, a misstep. A twig snapped beneath its talon. One Tenontosaurus lifted its head, sniffing the air nervously. Another followed. A low grunt of alarm rippled through the herd. But it was too late. The Acrocanthosaurus lunged forward with terrifying speed, crashing through the foliage like a living storm. The ground shook with each bound. The herd scattered in panic, but the predator had already locked on its target. A young one, slower than the rest. It roared, a sound that split the morning air, echoing across the primeval world like a god's fury. Claws dug deep. Teeth sank into flesh. The forest once again knew the rule of its true king. And as silence returned, broken only by the soft drip of blood into the soil, the Acrocanthosaurus raised its head toward the rising sun, claiming its place at the top of an untamed world. The forest had fallen quiet again. Mist drifted through the trees like pale smoke, wrapping the towering trunks in silence. Only the soft crunch of bones beneath powerful jaws disturbed the calm. The Acrocanthosaurus feasted in solitude, tearing through sinew and flesh with ruthless efficiency. Each bite echoed faintly in the still air, a reminder that in this world, dominance was measured by hunger and survival. Blood streaked the beast's scales, darkening the ridges of its back. Steam rose from the carcass of the fallen Tenontosaurus, its life slowly fading into the damp soil. The predator's amber eyes glowed faintly in the gloom as it devoured what it had conquered. But beneath that instinctive calm, something stirred, an unease. The forest wasn't still by accident. Somewhere beyond the ferns, something watched. The Acrocanthosaurus froze, nostrils widening. The wind shifted, carrying a new scent, sharp, musky, and heavy with aggression. It lifted its head, scanning the tree line. From the shadows, a low growl rolled out like distant thunder. Another predator. It stepped closer, muscles tense. Leaves rustled, and then a shape emerged, a rival Acrocanthosaurus, slightly smaller but no less fierce, its spines arching high, eyes burning with the same primal hunger. It had been drawn by the scent of blood, by the promise of a stolen meal. For a long moment, the two titans stood motionless, staring at each other through the drifting mist. The air between them pulsed with tension. There was no roar yet, only the silent conversation of dominance and challenge. Then the first blow came. The intruder lunged forward, jaws snapping. The ground exploded beneath their weight as the two massive creatures collided. The forest came alive with chaos. Trees shook, birds scattered, and ancient ferns were crushed beneath claw and tail. The alpha roared, a sound that shook the leaves loose from the canopy, answering the challenge with ferocity. They circled each other, tails whipping through the underbrush. The scent of rage and blood filled the air. The younger rival struck again, slashing its claws across the elder's flank, drawing a deep gash. The alpha staggered, but its eyes flared with fury. With a swift motion, it swung its tail, striking the rival's ribs with a thunderous crack. The challenger fell back, gasping, its breath ragged. The forest echoed with their snarls, ancient voices of violence that had echoed through eons. The elder Acrocanthosaurus advanced, blood dripping from its side but its spirit unbroken. It opened its jaws and unleashed a roar so powerful that it silenced the forest entirely. The rival hesitated, then turned away, limping into the shadows, defeated but alive. Silence returned, broken only by the soft rustle of wind through leaves. The alpha stood over its meal once more, victorious, bleeding, but unchallenged. It lowered its head and fed again, the taste of blood mingling with the thrill of dominance. Above the forest, the sun dipped low, painting the mist in crimson hues, a world ruled by beasts, where survival was not granted, but taken by force. The day bled into twilight, and with it came the storm. Dark clouds gathered like a swarm of shadows over the forest canopy. Lightning cracked across the heavens, lighting the world in flashes of silver and blue. The Acrocanthosaurus, wounded yet victorious from its earlier battle, moved slowly through the rain-drenched jungle. Each drop hissed against its scales, washing away the crusted blood that marked its triumph. The air was heavy with the scent of rain and mud. The great beast's steps echoed softly across the soaked ground, its tail dragging like a shadow. In the distance, thunder rolled, a sound not unlike its own roar, deep and ancient. The predator sought shelter now, its body aching. It found refuge beneath the great stone arches of a cliffside cave, a relic of some ancient sea long gone. Inside, the air was cool and damp, echoing with the whispers of dripping water. The beast lowered itself slowly, resting its massive head upon the earth. Its eyes half closed, scanning the rain beyond the entrance. Outside, the world turned wild. Wind tore through the trees, bending them until their roots screamed against the soil. Torrents of water coursed through the ravines, carrying leaves, twigs, and bones. For a brief moment, the forest seemed to vanish behind the veil of rain. And in that moment, a sound rose above the storm, a deep, echoing call. Not from another Acrocanthosaurus, but something older, something larger. The resting predator lifted its head, nostrils flaring. The call came again, distant but clear, carried by the wind from the plains beyond the jungle. It was the unmistakable cry of a Sauroposeidon, one of the last titans that ruled the land, a towering herbivore whose massive bulk shook the ground when it walked. The Acrocanthosaurus stood slowly, muscles tensing once more. Instinct stirred like fire in its blood. The scent of the giant was faint but intoxicating, so much flesh, enough to feed it for weeks. The storm began to fade as it stepped from the cave. Rain still fell in soft sheets, glimmering against its ridged spine. The forest opened into vast plains where the trees thinned, giving way to open grassland. The air was thick with mist and lightning flashes on the horizon. And there, far across the plains, it saw them. Massive silhouettes moving slowly under the stormlight. The Sauroposeidon herd, their necks rising like pillars into the clouds. The Acrocanthosaurus crouched low, eyes gleaming. It knew the risk. These giants were not easy prey. A single tail swipe could shatter bone, but hunger ruled stronger than fear. As thunder cracked once more, the predator began its approach, silent, methodical, every movement guided by ancient instinct. The rain masked its scent, the wind carried its sound